You know that feeling. When you're doing all the right things, trying to eat okay, maybe getting some exercise in, but you're still just dragging, totally exhausted.
Hmm.
Or maybe your mood's just all over the place. Or ugh, the weight just won't shift.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a common experience.
Okay, so today let's dive into something that's probably a massive piece of that puzzle.
Your hormones.
Exactly.
Hmm.
We're going to take a real deep dive into the world of these incredible chemical messengers. Think of them almost like the body's internal managers, silently running the show. Energy, mood, even how fast your metabolism works.
Okay.
And we're pulling insights from a really interesting conversation. It was called Hormones 101, Balancing Energy, Mood, and Metabolism.
Hmm.
The idea is to really unpack what these things are doing.
Right. So our mission here is to pull out the really key info from that discussion, make sense of what hormones are actually doing, sort of behind the curtain, and maybe most importantly, give you some practical stuff, some understanding you can maybe use day to day.
That's the goal. So to kick things off,
Yeah.
what exactly are these hormonal managers? What kind of power do they actually have?
Okay. So at their core, hormones are basically chemical signals, messengers. They travel around in your bloodstream, carrying instructions to different organs, different tissues. They're directing, well, a huge range of functions.
Like what specifically?
We're talking how your body makes and uses energy, those mood swings we mentioned, appetite, cravings, also sleep, your sleep cycles, even things like sex drive. It's all connected, really interconnected.
Wow, okay. So they're not just floating around randomly. They have very specific jobs to do. Can you give us a quick rundown? Like who are the major players in this hormonal orchestra?
Yeah, definitely. Some key ones that pop up a lot when we talk about health. Well, there's cortisol, that's the big stress hormone. Then insulin, vital for blood sugar. The sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, they do a lot more than people think.
Hmm.
Your thyroid hormones are kind of the metabolic thermostat. And melatonin, which helps conduct that whole sleep-wake cycle.
Okay, quite a team there. Let's maybe zoom in on one area. Energy levels.
Yeah.
Because so many of us feel that, right? That afternoon slump, or just feeling drained constantly, even if you slept okay. What's the hormonal angle there?
Well, what's really interesting is how they interact. Take cortisol, for instance. It naturally has this rhythm. It should be higher in the morning, gets you going, then kind of tapers off.
Right, wakes you up.
Exactly.
Mm.
But chronic stress, it throws that rhythm way off. You might get high cortisol at night, that awful wired but tired feeling.
Yes.
Or it's just high all the time, leading to burnout eventually. And it's interesting, sometimes it's not even huge stressful events. It can be that low-level constant stress that really messes with the cortisol rhythm long term.
That really hits home, that feeling of being keyed up, but also totally wiped out. And thyroid often comes up with energy, right? How do thyroid hormones fit in?
Oh, absolutely. Thyroid hormones are like fundamental to your metabolism, how efficiently your body turns food into energy. So if your thyroid is sluggish, underactive, metabolism slows right down. And that often shows up as just persistent fatigue, even if you're resting, eating well. It's like the engine's just idling too low.
Yeah, makes sense. And insulin. I mostly think of that with blood sugar. How does that play into the daily energy roller coaster?
Precisely. Insulin's main job is getting glucose sugar out of your blood and into your cells for fuel. But when your blood sugar spikes really high and then crashes maybe from lots of processed carbs or sugar.
Like that 3 p.m. chocolate bar fix.
Exactly. That triggers big surges and then crashes in insulin too. And that leads to those energy dips, that feeling of hitting a wall. Your cells aren't getting that steady fuel supply. It is that energy roller coaster.
All right, okay, that clicks. Now let's pivot a bit. Mood, mental well-being. It's so easy to just say, oh, I'm having a bad day if you feel anxious or irritable.
Yeah.
But what's the hormonal role?
Yeah, and this is so important because hormonal imbalances can genuinely show up with symptoms that look a lot like anxiety or depression, or just general irritability. The connection is often really underestimated.
So which hormones are we talking about here? Which ones really influence our emotional state?
Well, the sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, particularly in people with ovaries, they have a huge impact, mostly because they fluctuate naturally, cyclically. Think periods, pregnancy, menopause. Those shifts can definitely cause very real, noticeable changes in how you feel emotionally.
And what about testosterone? We usually link that to physical stuff, but the conversation mentioned mood impact too, especially in men.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? The role of testosterone in mood, particularly for people with testes, is often overlooked. When those levels are low, it can contribute to more irritability, difficulty concentrating, that classic brain fog.
Okay.
and even symptoms that look like depression. It's a prime example of how these hormones do more than just their main obvious job.
That's really interesting. And I think cortisol came up again with mood, too. How does stress tie into emotions?
Yeah, connecting back to stress. If cortisol levels are high for a long time, consistently elevated, it can actually interfere with serotonin, the neurotransmitter is often called the feel-good hormone.
Right.
High cortisol can reduce its production or availability, and that drop in serotonin, it can definitely contribute to those emotional crashes, that lower mood.
Okay, wow. So it's clear hormones are deep in the mix for physical energy and emotional states. Let's tackle that other big one, metabolism and weight. So many people feel like their metabolism is just broken, slowed right down.
Oh, it's such a common frustration, that broken metabolism feeling. But the truth is, hormones are really the main drivers. They're running the metabolic show.
And I bet thyroid hormones are key here again.
Absolutely. Front and center. Just like with energy, they dictate how efficiently you burn calories. If the thyroid's underactive, metabolism slows.
Yeah.
Makes it much harder to lose weight, easier to gain it, even if you haven't changed much else.
And insulin. We talked energy supply, but how does it connect to weight management?
Insulin's crucial for fat storage, too. When your cells become less responsive to insulin, that's insulin resistance,
Okay.
your body tends to store more glucose as fat. And often, that fat likes to hang out around the abdomen.
Ah, the dreaded belly fat.
Yeah.
And cortisol, the stress hormone.
Oh.
It seems to be everywhere. What's its role with weight?
Well, when you're stressed, cortisol basically tells your body, hey, store fat. We might need it later.
It's an old survival thing, right?
Yeah.
Storing energy for tough times.
Right, like ancient history stress.
Exactly. But in our modern world, with chronic stress, that signal just keeps firing. And that contributes to weight gain, especially that stubborn fat around the middle.
And the conversation mentioned leptin and ghrelin, too. Hunger hormones, right? How do they fit in?
Yeah, leptin and ghrelin, they're key messengers between your gut and your brain about hunger and fullness. Leptin basically says, okay, I'm full. Ghrelin says, time to eat.
When those get out of balance, it can mess things up, lead to more cravings, maybe eating when you're not actually hungry. Just makes it harder overall to regulate how much you eat.
Man, this really paints a picture. These chemical signals are orchestrating so much. So the big question then, what can people actually do? What are some practical steps to gently nudge hormones towards better balance?
Okay, the good news. There are some really fundamental lifestyle things that can make a huge difference. Let's start with sleep. It is absolutely foundational for hormone balance.
Really? Sleep.
Oh yeah, not getting enough sleep or inconsistent sleep, it messes up cortisol, insulin, melatonin, even your sex hormones. Making good quality, consistent sleep a priority. It's like hitting the reset button for your whole hormonal system, seriously.
That makes total sense. When you're truly rested, things just feel
Yeah.
smoother. Okay, what's next?
Next up, think about stabilizing your blood sugar through food. This is crucial. So focusing on real, whole, unprocessed foods. Less of the refined carbs, the sugary drinks. And a really good tactic. Always try to pair carbs with some protein and healthy fat. It slows down how fast the sugar hits your bloodstream, avoids those big spikes and crashes.
So like apple with peanut butter, not just the apple.
Exactly. Or nuts with your fruit, yogurt. That kind of pairing makes a big difference.
So fewer processed snacks, more balanced whole food meals. Got it.
Precisely. You want that steady energy release. It helps other hormones too. Then number 3, actively manage stress. Find ways that work for you, given how much cortisol affects things. Finding healthy ways to dial down stress is huge.
What kind of things?
Could be simple stuff.
Yeah.
Regular deep breathing exercises, even just for a few minutes. Short walks outside, maybe in nature. Journaling works for some people. Anything really that helps you shift out of that constant on-edge state.
Those sound doable.
Mm.
Positive things to add in.
Mm.
And lastly, movement. Exercise came up too. What's the hormonal benefit there?
Yeah, regular movement, even just brisk walking every day, it does wonders for insulin sensitivity. Makes your cells listen better to insulin signals.
Ah,
Plus, exercise supports a healthy metabolism overall, and it's known to boost mood hormones, too. It's just a really powerful tool for balance.
so it sounds like it's not about finding some magic bullet, but more about these consistent lifestyle choices, supporting our body's natural balance.
That's exactly it. Hormones aren't just relevant during, puberty or menopause. They are constantly, daily, influencing your energy, your mood, your metabolism, even how well you focus.
And the main takeaway seems to be that hormonal balance isn't just some abstract medical thing. It translates directly to feeling better overall, right? More energy, stable mood, better sleep, fewer of those weird, unexplained symptoms.
Absolutely. It's about overall well-being. And by understanding a bit more about what these messengers do and using these practical strategies, you can really take a more proactive role in helping your body find that balance.
This has been super helpful, really connects the dots between, how we feel day to day and what might be going on underneath. So for you listening, maybe something to think about is this. Given how much impact these chemical messengers have, what small, consistent lifestyle shift could you make? What adjustment might unlock some pretty significant improvements in how you feel every single day? Definitely worth mulling over.